Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a stand review on Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers is one of my favorite stands from Part 5, if not my second favorite, right behind Gold Experience Requiem. The stand has a cool design, an interesting ability, and it's just used really creatively through the part, and I was hoping that it would be well represented in YBA. And, well, if you've been following the track record of stands that I like in JoJo and how they turned out in YBA, you'll know that this one is probably gonna suck. Or at the very least, it will be okay at best. The World, my favorite stand in the entirety of JoJo's, main ability is the worst part of the stand. Unless you're actively abusing a glitch, the World's time stop is worthless and just not worth getting. That's whack. Gold Experience Requiem, my second favorite stand in JoJo's, is a stalling stand that you just use to avoid people and throw out random bits of damage until you beat them in a really long, drawn-out game of attrition. Not fun to play, not fun to play against. And here we are at Sticky Fingers, a stand that relies on one cheese move that makes up its entire moveset. But you know what? We're gonna be talking about all of that throughout the video. So, rather than sitting here and complaining on about other stands that are not Sticky Fingers, let's move into the moveset and we'll talk about exactly what Sticky Fingers is capable of achieving. So normally, when we get to the moveset section, I immediately start talking about the overall base destructive power and the M1s, but today, we're shaking up the formula. Because so much of Sticky Fingers revolves around Zipper Punch and how it works, we're starting with Zipper Punch. When fully upgraded, Zipper Punch applies a status effect for 18 seconds. This status effect not only slows your opponent down, but it also increases the damage they take from any source by 25%. At its core, the move deals 11 damage, and against someone that's already affected by zippers, it will do 13.7. The reason Zipper Punch is such a crutch, though, is because the move is not only uncancelable, but it's also unblockable and unparryable. That means that if you don't have a counter or get out of the way, you're gonna get hit by Zipper Punch. As for final notes, one thing to consider is that Zipper Punch has an incredibly wonky hitbox, and a lot of the time will simply pass through your opponent. So while definitely being Sticky Fingers' best move, it can also be incredibly inconsistent. Final note is that the effects of Zipper Punch on the slowdown do stack on top of each other, meaning you can bring people to a complete standstill if you hit them with it enough times, but the damage increase does not stack. So if they're affected, they'll only ever take 25% more damage, no more. When it comes to your M1s and your barrage, your destructive power is comparatively low to other stands, only dealing 7.3 damage with your M1s and 1.2 damage with your barrage. The stand does benefit from a fast stand speed, meaning your M1s are quick and there are quite a few hits in that barrage, but the real kicker is of course when you apply Zipper Punch. That increases your M1 damage up to 9.2 and your barrage up to 1.5. This damage being on par with stands like the World and Star Platinum. The next actual move that Sticky Fingers has access to, and the only real other combat move that it can use, is Extend Arm. The move has quite the reach while also dealing 8.8 damage unbuffed, and 11 damage when buffed by Zipper Punch. If the move is landed, it will pull the opponent directly in front of the player. As for noteworthy attributes, Extend Arm can be blocked but will pull the opponent regardless of if they're blocking or not. The move also does have stun on it, however it doesn't have enough stun to confirm any moves and ends you neutral with the opponent when you pull them in. The next move is useless, and as such I'm not even going to talk about it. Zipper Uppercut is stupid obvious, can't be used to avoid time stops contrary to popular belief, and is the easiest perfect block in the world, don't get it. And finally, the last move is Zipper Glide, which is also a relatively useless move because its properties currently at the time of recording suck. You can't use any moves during Zipper Glide. If you use any of them, it immediately cancels the move. And after finishing the move, or letting go of the move early, you get this weird invisible box in front of you that makes it so that you can't walk near any objects or you get stuck. This applies to all of the bushes in the 1v1s arena, as well as any sort of walls. It's a serious pain, and Zipper Glide really suffers because of it. And that wraps up the moveset, so we can move over to strategies and talk about what you need to do if you're planning on playing Sticky Fingers. When it comes to strategies for sticky fingers, I think most of you already know what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. The idea for sticky fingers is that you need to land zipper punch as much as possible, as often as possible. This move is your crutch. That's just what it comes down to. It has a low cooldown, so you can just throw it out at random, and if it doesn't land, so be it. You can use it during M1 battles, because if they don't knock you down or run away, you win that kind of trade. And in general, you should just be using this move as much as possible, because not only does it make your stand actually do an amount of damage, but it also slows them down, making it easier and easier to land all sorts of different attacks. One thing you do have to be wary of when it comes to zipper punch though, if you do two specific things, your zipper punch hitbox will be even more whack than it already is. And those two things are M1 into immediate zipper punch and extend arm into immediate zipper punch. Both of these, because of how buggy YBA is, when you do this, your stand will go back to behind your character when you release the zipper punch, meaning that you need to put your character model basically inside of the enemy and facing to the right in order to have the move connect, or it just won't work. So if you are doing either of these strategies, remember that you have to be wary of this, otherwise you're gonna look stupid because you're gonna try to do it, you're gonna swing at the air because your stand is going to go backwards, and then they're going to hit you with a punish. As for zipper glide and zipper uppercut, both of these can almost be written out of your moveset, because as I already said, they're both pretty much garbage. Zipper uppercut is a free parry, and even if there are some really niche scenarios where you can use it, it's just not worth getting. And zipper glide, while in theory being a good thing, you always run the risk of having to get randomly stuck on a slight change in terrain, which ends up hurting you in the long run. Sometimes you can use it to catch up with opponents and M1 them, but like I said, getting stuck on terrain, not really worth it. Extend arm has its own kind of mind game, seeing as it'll pull the enemy regardless of if they block or if they don't, but you do have to consider that if they do block, they're not ending neutral on you anymore, and they're gonna have the advantage, meaning they can hit you with whatever they want. So if people start constantly dodging or blocking your extend arm, you might want to change it up a little bit. You can also use extend arm when people stand up from the ground because of the lingering hitbox to try to catch people while they're standing up and potentially get them with a standoff combo. This usually does not work, but it's something you can go for if you're desperate for damage. Outside of that, there really isn't much else when it comes to stand-specific tips for sticky fingers. The stand plays incredibly flowcharty. If you're going up against time stop, you've probably lost from the start, and if not, and you're landing your zipper punches correctly, then you shouldn't really have too much of a problem taking down most of your opponents, assuming that your skill level is higher than theirs. If not though, sticky fingers is not a top tier stand, nor is it really all that good. So if you're going up against things like King Crimson, you should probably expect to lose if you're not a good player. With that though, that wraps up strategies, and we can move over to Counterplay. When it comes to fighting against sticky fingers, some of these things will not come as any surprise. And the biggest one, if you haven't already figured it out, is time stop. Sticky fingers gets destroyed by time stop. It has no options to deal with it. If you're using a freely time stopping stand and you go up against sticky fingers, it's pretty much over from the start. There's not a whole lot that they can do about it. Outside of that though, fighting sticky fingers can get a little bit more complicated, and that's because once they've landed a zipper punch, it gets very difficult to bring the match back. Because of zipper punch stacking and the fact that you can become slower and slower and slower, sticky fingers can start running circles around you, and it can almost feel like a made in heaven match after a while because you're so slow while they're still moving at the same speed they were before, thus making it easier and easier for them to land attacks, especially another zipper punch, which slows you down even more. But the thing is, actually being able to land the zipper punch can be easier said than done for the sticky fingers player if you're playing your cards correctly. The biggest thing is that you always need to be cognizant of when they're using their zipper punch in neutral, and also not over-committing so that you don't get hit by one. Fact of the matter is, most stands out DPS sticky fingers, especially when they don't have zipper punch effects on you. That means that if you just do 1 or 2 M1s and then dip every single time, or only convert off of a projectile or something if you're using the world, then there's not a whole lot that sticky fingers is going to be able to do to catch you outside of extend arm. And extend arm, if you're good at the game, is actually your best friend. And that's because it's stupid obvious, you can see it coming from a mile away, and if you simply block while it's coming, they're handing you a combo. If you see Sticky Fingers winding up Extend Arm, block, and then the second you see or hear the effect of it hitting your block, throw out any move, and there'll still be an end lag by the time you get to them. This works really well with combo extenders or combo starters like Star Platinum Starfinger, Knives for any of the world variants, Chop for King Crimson, and really any of those moves, because the Sticky Fingers player is probably expecting you to do a defensive option while you end up doing an offensive one. But that's not to say that you can't do a defensive option here. Assuming that you do successfully block the Extend Arm, you can just dash immediately since, you're not affected by the stun, and this will make it so whatever they're trying to hit you with won't work out. However, you can't block everything every single time. So what happens if you do get hit by the Extend Arm? This is the point where you don't block and you mash your dash key and hope to gods that the Lords of RNG up at YBA headquarters don't screw you over. 99% of the time, if you mash dash, even if you get hit by the damage of Extend Arm, you will not have enough time to get hit by Zipper Punch. But sometimes, the game decides to play some jokes on you and hits you anyway. Cause why not? If this happens, the best play when you've been hit by a Zipper Punch is to do your best to avoid the Sticky Fingers for 18 seconds. Trying to fight them while you're under the effect of Zipper Punch is just asking to get hit by more of them. And each subsequent punch, you're gonna get slower and slower and slower, and then they beat you. So if you do get hit by one, and you're slightly slower than they are, try to make sure you don't get hit by another one before you can move again. Other than that though, that's really all there is to fighting against Sticky Fingers, so let's jump to the conclusion and wrap things up. The conclusion to this is not going to be a surprise to anyone, and that's that if they just ironed out some stuff with Sticky Fingers, it would be perfectly fine and a more than usable stand, but because of some of the bugs it has, and of course the innate weakness to time stop, it just can't get there and likely never will get there. The biggest frustration factor is obviously the Zipper Punch hitbox, which is seemingly totally random. And that randomness is way more compounded by the fact that both of the biggest ways that you're going to land it, M1s into Zipper Punch and Extend Arm into Zipper Punch, break the hitbox even more and make it so that the hitbox is active behind your character. Overall, these two things make Zipper Punch inconsistent, and Zipper Punch is all you really have. And so when you don't have that, it just gets rough. Not only that, but despite all of the creative ways that you could probably use zippers in this game, Sticky Fingers doesn't really do any of them. Zipper Uppercut is maybe the most creative of those, and that move is in contention for worst move in the entire game, and so that's probably not speaking too much for its positives. I personally wouldn't mind seeing an RE beatdown or something added to the game. I know I used to be against beatdowns all the time, but I think beatdowns are pretty well balanced now, and assuming that it doesn't do some absurd amount of damage, you could have something really quick like that, and I don't think it would fix the whole stand. It would still need some help, but at the very least, it would add some sort of variety and make people maybe want to pick this up and use it. Because as it stands, the only people that are playing Sticky Fingers are people who are memeing in 1v1s and going, haha, look, I can play the low tier stand, and that's really about it. Very, very, very few people actually take this seriously, and you can see why. On power levels wise, it's just not that great. So you know what? It gets a pass from me at the very least because it's usable. It's not totally horrible that you can't make it work, but I wish it was better. That's all I have to say about it though. So let me know what you think about Sticky Fingers in the comments, and if there's anything I missed in the review, because I'm not really a Sticky Fingers expert per se, so I'm sure I didn't get everything. With that though, I am finishing up here, so if you enjoyed the video and you learned anything, you can feel free to leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, you can leave a dislike, but YouTube took them away, so I won't see it. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.